Okay, so I'm going to start the Raglan adaptation. That's page 137, Winfred Aldrich book, diagram 24. It's the only diagram on that page, which is great. You can see the flat drawings, or the working drawings up at the top. You can see the Raglan sleeve line. You can see the diagrams there underneath showing our construction. So you need a front block, a back block, and a sleeve block for this, okay, which I've drawn up here. This is bodice block, the back bodice block, and the sleeve block. This is a sleeve that involves the body block. So we've been looking at sleeves here like the set-in sleeve. This is also called the one-piece sleeve. And we've been looking at maybe things we can do to that. We can shorten it, we can lengthen it, we can draw a line, we can cut up, we can flare, we can do different things to the physical sleeve itself. All right, we can taper it in. There's all types of things we can just do to that sleeve. But this one goes out then that next step. And can we take a little bit of this block and basically add it to this sleeve, and we're going to create this Raglan line. All right, this is an example of a Raglan. It isn't exactly the same as the one in the picture, but it gives us a visual, so that we can kind of keep remembering this line. This neckline has been taken out, and this part of the sleeve is gathered, so the dart went into gather. So slightly different, but okay, it gives you that line. Now there are some errors in her book on this instruction, which is very annoying on this edition. 6th edition. So she says trace the blocks required with one-piece sleeve block. So again, notice she's telling you what the blocks required. So you could put a coat block here, you could put a men's block here, you could put anything here. All right, different blocks. So this is the bodice block, and we've put the adaptation of the dart being in the waist. Hers is actually different. It's on the underarm dart position, so that doesn't matter. The main thing is that for this one, that it's out of this area. If there was a dart up in this area, you'd first have to move it out of the way, okay? So we just choose a block that has it already out of the way. So we've chosen our blocks, we've traced around them. Then she has different sections. So she says body sections, so we know when she says that we're looking at the body sections here. Take 1 centimeter off front shoulder line, add 1 centimeter to the back shoulder line. So, and then the next line says place any back shoulder ease into the dart. So that would be referring to different blocks that have ease in the shoulders. Okay, so we're just going to kind of breeze through some of that. The main point here is we're taking one off the front shoulder, so I'm going to do it in red. This is our front, this is our shoulder line. We're taking one off, which means we're coming down into the block. We're measuring down 1 centimeter. So my red line is the new line, the correct line. The black line is the old line and is incorrect, so you can wiggle through that if that helps you, because when lines are close together and they're both in pencil, you know, it can get confusing which one is which. So if we've taken some off this shoulder, we got to think about what we're doing. We can't just take stuff off areas. Like what she's saying is we're going to add it to the back. So we can do stuff like that. So again, you wouldn't be doing loads of that, but you can definitely move the shoulder line a little bit. And that's what we're doing in this case. It's because of the way it sits. It sits better actually if you move it into this position. Come up our 1 and 1 here. In this case, it's the higher line, you see? So the red line is now the new one. On the back, we've gone up. The front, we've come down. So the next thing is mark points 1 and 2, 3 centimeters in from new shoulder points. So your new shoulder points, so 1 and 2, again, look at the diagram, and 1 is over here on the back, and this is now your new shoulder point, the red one, and we're going to measure in full scale measurement 3 centimeters Okay, that's 1.5 for you in half scale. So she's reminding you to measure from your new shoulder point. So again, you're trying to blur out the fact this line no longer exists. We're measuring from this new line, and we're going to measure 3 in. You might need a measuring tape actually because it's curved. So that's position 1. And then on the other side, I'm measuring in from the red line. I'm coming down 3, full scale, and I'm putting my measurement there. So this is essentially, she's giving you the amount to come for the position of the raglan. If it was going into the neck there, it would be about 3 down. So that's a classic position. You could change that a bit, you know, come down 4, or you could, you know, but she's given us that, so we're going to go with it. Then the next thing, place any, oh, she says it again, place any back shoulder ease into the dart. There's a difficulty on this. It's like it's a typing error. There's several lines are duplicated. Okay, that's a duplicate of the line that was a couple of lines up. Then also the next section is also very confusing. She tells you to move front balance points, but she didn't tell you where or how. Then there's some lines that are absolutely duplicates and irrelevant. So the next 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. Then she says mark point 3 at the back pitch point. We can do that. So this is a reminder of terminology. This is a pitch point, but it's also our balance point, and I'll also call it the notch, the sleeve notch. So
the underarm down there, is it?
Yeah, this point here. Now remember, I do a double representing the back, so to distinguish it from the front, it's a single. On her book she just does a single notch, right? So this is just my method, and it helps when it's in fabric to tell which is the front and which is the back, because you've got a double notch, because in fabric they change shape and it's really hard to tell, and so it's helpful for beginners. But a lot of the time you won't see a double. So on the double, the actual notch is always the bottom one. Whenever I'm doing a double notch, my method is the actual notch point is the bottom, and I measure up always. So we're marking point 3. So this, like I said, here is position 3. So we've got 1 and we've got 3. So we've marked that. That's all we're doing. The next instruction up at the next side says mark point 4 3 centimeters up from your pitch point. So if we look on the diagram, she doesn't say front, she should say front, so that would be more helpful, because we're now talking about the front. Here was the back. 4 is the front pitch point. So there's our front pitch point. That's our front balance point. It's our armhole notch. And we're kind of come up 3 centimeters. So that clarifies that line that she had earlier where she said move front balance points. She just says it, but she didn't say how much or where or what to do. So I would probably erase that too, because it's this line says it again, but it gives the right amount of information. So I don't know what's happened in this particular one, but it's like there's been a duplication and typos or something. Okay, we're coming up 3 on our front pitch point, our front balance point, and we're marking our new position, which is position 4. And again, I'm going to circle the position. So 4, when it's circled, represents a position. Those are the numbers. So now all of that was just to get our raglan line. So that was helping to get our position for this line. So that's all this, and now we can draw our line. So we're going to draw it. I'm going to draw it first. You can see that it's got a curve. It's got a slight curve on it. But what you want to do is draw the line first. As I would have taught you, getting curves is a little hard, and just drawing any old curve any which way is difficult. If you draw the straight line, it can be the construction line, the line, and it's easier to measure from that. The reason we're coming up here is to have it be at somewhat similar level. So I'm doing the curve, so you can look in the book. Again, she has a darker line representing her final line. The curve is going up, it's not a huge curve. And so I can draw that in. You can come maybe to the center and measure. I'm measuring about 0.5 in full scale. So the red line is the final line. Again, we can wiggle through that if you want to help you remember that's a construction line. Trace off body sections along the Raglan line. So what she means there is we're going to trace off everything under that red curved line is the body section. Okay, and this section is going to be the top section. Can you see the way it's there's lines through it on the diagram, and then it's going to be placed here on top of the sleeve. So then she has in bold one-piece sleeve. So now we know we're going to come to the one-piece sleeve. And draw the center line of the sleeve 1 centimeter forward. A little bit confusing, but if this is your front, that's what she means by forward. So this line, we're going to move forward. And that is to relate to this thing, this adaptation. Okay, we came 1 centimeter here, and we need it to be then in line with that seam. So we come 1 centimeter forward here as well. And we just draw in our new line. So I'm drawing it in red, and again I'm going to wiggle through to remind you this is now gone. Then she says mark points 5 at 2 centimeter down from the sleeve head. So the sleeve head is here. We have to know our terminology again. So again, we have our elbow line, we have our wrist line. This is our sleeve head. It's important to know that. Our sleeve head, our balance points, our center line, our straight of grain. All of these things. So 2 centimeters down from the sleeve head, we're going to make a mark, and this is on our new line, the red line. So that's full scale, that's 2 down. Then she says mark 0.6 at the back pitch point. Okay, that's 6. With a circle around it, meaning that's position 6. Mark 7, position 7, we look at the diagram, find 7, it's similar to 6, it's kind of across from there. 3 centimeters up from our front pitch point on our sleeve now. So this is our front pitch point on our sleeve. We're going 3 centimeters up so that it matches the 3 centimeters up that we came here. So anything we do to this, here, if it's going to sew to that, the same thing needs to happen. She says place body sections to sleeve, match points 3 and 6 to 6 and 4 to 7. So these are the little sections we're going to trace off. She's telling you to place them there, and she's telling you to close the back dart. So you see we're going to trace this section off here. There's a dart in it. We need to close that dart. Because we're going to trace it, we can cut it out, we can easily close it then, and then we're going to place it here. It's going to go up. So have a visual of what you're doing before is handy. Trace around the sleeve, making a slightly shaped shoulder line from the neck line to 0.5. And then 2-piece sleeves, the last instructions is you can divide that into 2. I just trace it off as 1, but it's just good to see that you can put a seam right down the center there and have it be 2 pieces. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to trace off and place them there. So for the moment, I'm going to trace here. I'm tracing along my curved line. I'm tracing to my new line, which is the lower one in this side, the red one. I'm coming down. Oh, one thing before I go any further. This would need a notch. She has a notch drawn in the picture. Remember, she doesn't ever tell you about notches. She tells you about them on the diagram. She shows them on the diagrams. She actually has 2 notches. Do you see those little lines? It's a curved shape. It's nice to have at least one. She has drawn in like a notch there and there. So then you need to do it first so that when you trace off, you have your notches drawn in. Okay, and so I'm going to draw in some notches here. And in this case, you need to draw in the dart that's there. If it doesn't hit that curved line, you just extend it down a little bit to that line, because we're going to fold it out. So here we have this. If you feel you might be worried that you might get confused, you can always put a B. It is very similar to the other one, but it does have a dart in it, so that can help us determine which one is which. Going to fold over the dart, close over the dart. And this essentially here, that point is position 3. I can kind of write it on there a little bit to help me if I want. She says to put position 3 to position 6. So that's how we know how to place it. I'm just placing it there roughly for a sec because I'll explain a little more. So this is our front. This is position 4. And again, it's very abstracted now. We don't know what it is. We get really confused. You are welcome to write there, armhole, you know, shoulder. I mean, which one is the shoulder, you know. So while you're learning and you abstract pieces, it can be very hard to understand what they are. And so writing and naming the lines is actually very helpful. So 4 was to go to position 7, which was here. We came up 3 to position 7, and that goes there. Okay, so those points need to be matched there, and then we're going to pivot that down so that this point hits the sleeve head. This piece here might overlap this curved bit a bit. So this, when I pivot it to hit the black line, I don't know if you can see from there, but it's actually like I can see if I was to draw in underneath the curve of the sleeve is kind of there, but that's correct. Also, we have this point here, but we're not actually putting that to that point. We're putting it to the sleeve head. You can watch again on this side. I'm going to put this down until it hits the black mark there with 3 pivoting there at position 6 and until it hits the black line. But now this is an opening, which is essentially like a very large dart or a shaping. And that is going to come from this point here down to here, and from this point here down to here. And that's the bit that she said to go in a curved shape. Again, curvy, I would always draw a straight line and curve from it. Because particularly here is no man's land. People do all types of very interesting curves. You know, like the reality is maybe start with a straight line and then curve it slightly from that. That's the draft essentially. We've taken a little section here and placed it here, and this section here and placed it here. And now our bodice block is now this, up and along that raglan line, down and around. You'll be smoothing and blending. Anything that's a little funny, like this position here, is going to be a little funny, so just make a nice little blended line. And remember, you're only putting the information on that the sewer needs, so not all this bit here about what's happened all in here. All you need is the outside lines, the finalized line, the outside lines, your notches the sewer needs, you know, your elbow line, your grain line, the cutter and the sewer needs. So you need to be sure and know what information is needed, and also know what information shouldn't be on there. Because if you put information on there that isn't needed, it can be confusing. It's like, is this a feature? Am I supposed to sew something here? What is this? So we only need to know the outside shape, and likewise here. All right, so you'll have a body block from here down. You'll have a for the back, for the front, and then you'll have one sleeve traced off. Yeah. So that's the Raglan sleeve draft. One thing I would say as well about the Raglan, I like her version of the Raglan. I've done quite a few Raglan adaptations from various books, and I do find her simple enough. And in terms of the menswear, if you're doing menswear, I actually use this book version to do on the menswear. Because the menswear Raglan draft is just so confusing, and this works. It's like this is a simpler one. So I like her women's wear. I like the Winifred women's wear Raglan instructions minus all the mistakes she's made in this edition.